Back to follow-up segment tonight. There is now a crisis in the city of Chicago. So far this year, murders in the Windy City up 46% over last year. Shootings up 46% as well. Innocent people are being gunned down, not just gang members. According to reporting by Heather McDonald in the New York Post today, at least 15 children under the age of 12 have been shot so far this year, including a 3-year-old boy now paralyzed for life. Obviously, the governor of Illinois, Bruce Rauner, and the mayor of Chicago, Rahm Emanuel, have failed to effectively deal with the lethal violence. But why have they failed? Joining us from Chicago, Enoch Mohammed, co-founder of Hip Hop Detox, group that works with at-risk youth in Chicago. So why can't the authorities control the violence, Mr. Mohammed?
Well, first of all, thank you for the invitation. And in the spirit of how we define hip-hop as being truth without boundaries. And so the first word that I want to put out there is accountability. You cannot successfully deal with violence and you don't understand that violence is systemic and is symptomatic in all aspects of life. So you can't have people who reside in 24 to 25 neighborhoods and the speed light cameras and all the things that are done to take money out of people's pockets are happening predominantly in those 24, 25 neighborhoods. It's not to say that the other neighborhoods aren't getting hit, but not like those 24 to 25 neighborhoods.
But let's put the social problems aside and deal with public safety. Surely you want the poor people of Chicago to be protected. Surely you want that. All right, we all want that. The governor and the mayor cannot protect them. Why?
Well, you have to have accountability, which starts with looking at those who are doing the work. However, the funding, the investment.
But all of that, you've got to get more micro into it. There's a problem on the streets.
You're talking about block by block and porch to porch type work where you're dealing with people on the ground. And what I'm saying is that the on the ground work is being done. However, when you have $461 million in TIF funding that gets put into tourism and gets put into areas that are already affluent, and you continue to starve those neighborhoods that need that type of funding because this is taxpayer dollars.
I don't know if funding is going to help.
That's part of the problem.
I don't think funding is going to help reduce violence when the violence is generated by street gangs who sell narcotics. So,
well,
I mean, what are you going to do, bribe them not to kill each other? But first of all, let's establish.
First of all, the gangs in Chicago are not the way they were in the 90s when you had 970 murders.
No, but you're up to almost 500 murders in September with almost 2,500 shootings. That's Afghanistan levels. Okay?
Oh, no, you're absolutely correct about the numbers as far as that is concerned. But what I'm saying is that when you look at the problem, Chicago has a systematic problem where in the neighborhoods, for example, you're dealing with cliques all over the city of Chicago who are not organized as they were in the 80s and the 90s when you talk about quote-unquote gangs. So when you deal with, well, the problem is gangs, the problem is shooting, yes, you have conflicts within the neighborhoods. You have a lot of different social, psychological, a lot of trauma, a lot of pain that's in those particular neighborhoods. However, when you don't deal with the fact that not only do you have rogue cops that are supplying drugs and guns, when you don't deal with the fact that these drugs come on trucks and trains and boats and planes and these young guys on the street.
But again, you're going macro, and this is a public safety issue that needs to be dealt with immediately. And immediately means the National Guard. It means the National Guard. That's what it means. If the National Guard were put into the neighborhoods, all of these shootings would stop because the National Guard would be on the street.
When you say National Guard, I agree the National Guard should be used, but not to be put on the street to deal with the people on the street.
The immediate violence.
You should use National Guard strategically in the Chicago area in terms of the borders to prevent drugs from coming in.
Can't do it. It's impossible.
Why you can't do that?
Never been done in the history of mankind. All the people are going to get it in no matter what. However, what can be done to prevent a 3-year-old from being paralyzed by a gang member's bullet, all right, is to put presence on the street that will inhibit violence because right away it'll be reacted to. And you know that, Mr. Mohammed. If you want to go macro on it, you're going to have to deal with this kind of stuff ad infinitum.
This is a macro solution. Let me give you a micro solution.
Real quick,
when I say block by block and porch by porch, that means that those who invest their time, whether people are getting compensated to do it or not, you got those in the neighborhood, not the traditional leaders and those who are in front of cameras all the time. You have those who are in the schools, they're in the neighborhood.
They can work with.
They are doing that kind of work
with the authorities. They can work with the authorities. And that's the only way it's going to stop, Mr. Muhammad. It's the only way that thousands of poor black Chicagoans are going to be saved. That is the only way.
The only way is when you work, but you have to work with the people, and you can't just put armed military in and have guns when you have trauma. You have generations of trauma.
You have to do both.
So you can't just do both. Well, you can't do both and not have mental health.
I got a
question.
I got a question. I got to go.
Okay.
All right, but we'll have you back.